Thank you very much, Mr. President. I'll be frank. What's going on in this room for us is really puzzling. How is it possible that the UN Secretary General is talking about the situation in Syria and the most difficult humanitarian situation there, and not a single word is being used to talk about terrorist organizations, neither ISIL nor al-Nusra, not even in the Secretary General's statement, as if the disaster in Syria was like a hurricane that hit Haiti. Isn't combating terrorism one of the basic goals of the United Nations? Indeed, the special representative of the Secretary General, Mr. Stefan de Mistura, mentioned Jabhat al-Nusra and ISIL in passing, but is planning to bring Jabhat al-Nusra out of Aleppo with dignity and the other cities that they've seized. On behalf of the Secretary General, what dignity are they talking about? What dignity are they talking about with respect to terrorists? Once again, three unanimously adopted Security Council resolutions, 2259 and 2254, require that the UN destroy the safe havens that terrorists have erected for themselves in Syria. To eradicate the safe haven they've established over significant parts of Syria. In this regard, I've got a question. Does the Secretary General take into account, when he talks about Syria, these Security Council resolutions? The Minister of Foreign Affairs of Canada, who took the floor today, didn't say a single word either about the disaster wreaked by terrorists in Syria, neither Jabhat al-Nusra or ISIL. I'm wondering if Canada is going to comply with Security Council resolutions either. These resolutions call for combating of terrorism and eradication of it, and that these things should be priorities. My American colleague took the floor before me, and she said that the United States continue to combat al-Nusra. The spokesman of the State Department clarified in a different manner. He said that the United States were combating ISIL, and then after Nusra left the city, the U.S. stopped fighting Nusra. So that means that the people under ISIL in eastern Aleppo have to remain hostages of the organization. Now, as the U.S. spoke about the root causes of what's going on, so as to be clear, allow me to recall an authoritative figure, the Vice President, Joseph Biden, 2 years ago, said at Harvard a few things. First, he said that they had no intentions. There was no moderate opposition in Syria. And then he clarified, and I'll say it in English.
In the region, were our largest problem in Syria. What were they doing? They were so determined to take down Assad and essentially have a proxy Sunni-Shia war. What did they do? They poured hundreds of millions of dollars and tens of tons of weapons into anyone who would fight against Assad, except that the people who were being supplied were al-Nusra and al-Qaeda and the extremist elements of jihadists who were coming from other parts of the world. Now, you think I'm exaggerating? Take a look. Where did all of this go? So now that's happening all of a sudden. Everybody is awakened because of this outfit called ISIL, which was Al-Qaeda in Iraq, when they were essentially thrown out of Iraq, found open space and territory in Syria, and they work with al-Nusra, who we declared a terrorist group early on. And we could not convince our colleagues to stop supplying them. End of quote. Вот причина.
So that's why we have what's going on. Your Vice President, Madam Power, has clarified what's going on. Your Vice President clearly stated why it's going on. So, colleagues, enough already. Here we've got representatives of some countries in the room who are very aware that their countries finance and provide weapons to terrorist organizations, Nusra, ISIL, and others, which for some reason have not yet been included on the terrorist list of the United Nations. So stop giving them weapons and money. And then I'm sure that the humanitarian situation in Syria would improve quite quickly indeed. In the United States, it's high time that they make good on their obligations given by the CAA, that is, that the U.S. can separate the so-called moderate opposition from terrorism. Terrorists. The U.S. hasn't been able, nor have their allies in the region. And they haven't been able to gain control over the genie that got out of the bottle, Nusra. Now, on our text that we prepared, sir, we'll distribute it in writing. Thank you very much.
I thank the distinguished permanent representative of Russia, and I now give the floor to the distinguished permanent representative of Iceland, who's speaking on behalf of the Nordic group.